Today, our guest speaker is Stephen Bassett. Stephen is a leading advocate for ending the 65-year government-imposed truth embargo regarding an extraterrestrial presence engaging the human race. He is a political activist, lobbyist, commentator, and the executive director of Paradigm Research Group, which is dedicated to end truth embargo on disclosure. In 2003, PRG proposed a citizen hearing and conducted a week-long hearing in Washington, D.C., before former members of the House and Senate. PRG continues to seek the funding to launch this project, which has the power to end the truth embargo in short order. If you'd like to support him and the PRG, please go to his website, paradigmresearchgroup.org. So my first question is about, the citizen hearing back in 2013 in Washington. Most Chinese audiences know about this event. And during that event, 10 countries, including 40 witnesses and 6 former congressmen participated as well. And it's unprecedented. So the Chinese audience are quite familiar with this. It's quite a milestone in the UFO disclosure history. But some people still don't know, you initiated this citizen hearing by PRG Paradigm Research Group. You initiated through this group. So could you elaborate on this PRG group, and also why you initiate such a citizen hearing, and what kind of changes have happened after that, especially when it comes to United States government?
Okay. Paradigm Research Group was set up to engage the politics of the UAP phenomena.
Okay, you can say more than that, 10 seconds, translate.
Okay, all right, fine. Sometimes people want less, some want more. Or to put it another way, it was created to work to resolve the UAP extraterrestrial issue by political means. And that means convincing the United States government to finally confirm this extraterrestrial presence, which I have called disclosure with a capital D. Capital D disclosure would be the confirmation of the extraterrestrial presence by the heads of state of nations, including the United States, China, Russia, the UK, etc. Of the many things that Paradigm Research Group has done over the last 24 years, perhaps the most important was the citizen hearing on disclosure in April-May 2013. 52 witnesses testified over 5 days for 30 hours to 6 former members of the United States Congress. This event, which cost $600,000 to $700,000 to do, was done to show the United States Congress what hearings, congressional hearings, would be like, which is why we held this citizen hearing in the National Press Club main ballroom, just 2 blocks from the White House. We live streamed this event, all 30 hours, in at least 4 languages. One of the languages might have been Chinese, I think it was, to ensure that as many people as possible would see this mock congressional hearing. So it had impact. And it was prelude to another Paradigm Research Group project, which was engaging the 2016 presidential election regarding the ET issue. In particular, the connection between the ET UAP issue and presidential candidate, Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. It's possible that the citizen hearing on disclosure and the 2-year political initiative during the presidential campaign, which generated nearly 400 news articles, English language news articles, about the connection between Secretary Clinton and the ET issue, played a role or a part in the decision of a number of people who worked within our military intelligence community to ultimately create and launch a public entity called the To the Stars Academy of Arts and Science, and then immediately provide to the New York Times extraordinary information resulting in the two articles of December 16th, 2017, which completely changed the status of the truth embargo and the disclosure process. For the last nearly 4 years, all that we have seen happen with the huge coverage of the UAP ET issue, documentaries, statements from politicians, request for reports, stems or goes back to those two articles printed in the New York Times, December 16, 2017. We are now, I believe, in the final weeks and months of the government-imposed truth embargo, and will very possibly see an announcement from a head of state. I would assume President Joseph Biden, confirming the extraterrestrial presence before the end of this year. Let me be clear. The truth embargo is going to end. Disclosure is going to happen. The only thing that is not determined yet is which head of state will go first. It could be the President of the United States, the President of China, the President of Russia, the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, the Prime Minister of India. Don't know, but one of them will be the first to confirm the extraterrestrial presence. And that will be the most profound event in human history.
Next question is about the UAP released this year. It's 25th June, right? So the United States DoD it released report on UFO UAP, though they didn't really officially confirm the flying saucers of aliens, but they somehow confirmed that there are some technology, flying vehicle technology that are beyond humans' existing technology level. So Stephen, do you know about how why DoD do this, like releasing this report, and also France released their UFO report as well? What's their agenda and what kind of forces behind these efforts? And is this like a preparation work before the official confirmation of UFO and aliens?
Yes. Your listeners, your viewers, should know something very important. One, those that have a need to know within the United States military intelligence community, the China military intelligence community, the Russian military intelligence community, and India and the UK and France, Canada, etc., have known that there's an extraterrestrial presence engaging us since no later than the late 1940s. They've known for 74 years. So if that's the case, what is happening now? What is happening now is the US government in particular, and to some degree other nations, are trying to get out from under this truth embargo, this denial of the ET presence. It's awkward. It's difficult. And naturally, they want to do it in a way that makes them look good, right? You don't want to make it harder than necessary on yourself. It is a very complicated process. The Navy, the Department of Defense, to some degree, the White House, the Congress, other agencies are maneuvering to get the job done, to complete the task. And the task is to finally confirm the extraterrestrial presence. And so all of this is part of a relatively organized, orchestrated project, in a sense. So you have to look at it that way, not in a particular isolated act, but all of it together. And the fundamental path that we're going down, the road that we're on, is congressional hearings. What the Department of Defense wants, and the Navy wants, and I believe the White House wants, are the congressional hearings we've been trying to get for the last 52 years. And by that, I don't mean one day, I mean days of congressional hearings, multiple committees, scores of witnesses, which will almost certainly be military. First, we have those hearings, and at some point, the president will be able to confirm the extraterrestrial presence. So the Senate Intelligence Committee requests a report. The Department of Defense gives back a small public report on the 29th of June, but it gives a 400-page classified report to the Congress on the 16th of June. All of that is in the works. All of that is happening. And it's all heading towards congressional hearings. But it has been affected by the exploding COVID-19 Delta variant surge, developments in Afghanistan, and some very chaotic developments in American politics. So it's slowed down a bit, but we're heading towards hearings. And once those hearings start, you can count the days until disclosure takes place.
This question is about the technology that has been hit by the US government, and this is a very major part in the disclosure. Do you have a timeline for this? When will this technology be released to the public?
I invite your viewers to do what I do. Divide history in half. One half is the pre-disclosure world, which we're in right now. And the other half is the post-disclosure world, which will come when the confirmation of this ET presence takes place by the heads of state of nations. There are things that we can do and learn now in the pre-disclosure world, but there is most of what we want to know and we will learn about will be in the post-disclosure world. So if you're talking about ET technology, we're not going to learn about that until we get disclosure done. And there is much, much more. So that needs to come first. We need to have disclosure and then the confirmation event, and then we need to start learning what the government already knows. And that's a lot. So think of it that way. First, we need to bring forth the testimony of military witnesses to the Congress confirming the ET presence. The president would then respond with a confirmation. And then things get very interesting very quickly. And there will be a menu of things that we will be engaging intensely. And technology issues will just be one of those.
The next question is cared very much by Chinese audience. So in some videos, you talk about China being the most likely country to disclose alien existence. So why do you think so? Do you have any insider information to back up?
Insider information?
Yeah, or any information you know about, like very secret information.
Anyone that tells you they have insider information, well, I don't know. Everybody likes to think they have. My assessment is based upon following developments in this subject for 24 years. So consider me an informed authority. And based upon that assessment, I believe we are in the last weeks and months of disclosure. To be honest, if an insider were to approach me privately and say, Steve, we're in the last months and weeks of the truth embargo, I would be far more likely, it would be far more likely that I would trust my assessment than the words of an insider. Because an insider can lie, and they do that all the time. My assessment is based upon 2 decades of watching and assessing this process. And so I'm going to go with my assessment and not what some insider might tell me, even if they were to do so.
So not so long ago, I interviewed Dr. Michael Sala, and during his interview, he talked about a possible action in the next 6 months by this day, saying that this is their last card, which is the big alien invasion card. So also, Dr. Stephen Greer also did a documentary. It's called Cosmic Hoax. So what's your view on this theory? Is this like fake alien invasion real? Is this false flag event possible?
Well, a false flag is possible.
Like, could that happen?
Sure, it's possible. False flags have been a part of political and military strategy for millennia. Do I think a false flag is in the works regarding this issue? No. I do not see the evidence for that. And so I simply don't support that theory. I think it's worth advising people to pay attention, to watch, and determine that things are going forward properly and in a way that's constructive. That's fine. But to say, it's not appropriate to say that a false flag is definitely going to happen and it's going to happen in so many months or so forth. No, I'm not in agreement with that. And I'm, if I come to learn or see the evidence for it, I won't hesitate to comment. But at this point, I do not see that happening, and I am not concerned about it yet.
Also, during the UAP report release, the national defense concern is like at highest point, because the report kind of guiding people to think about national security more. So that's why some people are quite, they're worrying, this could happen, and they are worrying because of national security reasons. So what do you think about this?
As I said earlier, there is a complex process underway in order to achieve this disclosure event, to get the congressional hearings, which are critical for this to take place properly. The basis for the congressional hearings is national security, and that's where the emphasis is. That does not necessarily mean that those inside the Department of Defense are convinced that the extraterrestrials are a real national security threat, a potential threat. Anything can be a potential threat. But national security must be the basis for these hearings, for the members of these committees and the committee chairs to take the political risk to hold these hearings. It has to have what would consider an appropriate platform, and it's national security. Don't be too concerned about that. I'm not worried about that. I am far more worried about the national security issues that center upon the relations between the major powers, such as the United States and China, the United States and Russia, Russia and India, China and India, and so forth. These are far more of a concern for those that want to see no more conflict and resolution of the major issues facing the world right now. Extraterrestrials are not our biggest national security concern.
Another question is about history. We all know that back in 1947 Roswell incident, there seems to be an increase in the contacts between aliens and human worlds. And accordingly, former United States President Eisenhower back in 1954 has met 3 different kinds of alien races. One being the Greys, and also he seemed to have signed some cooperation treaty with the Greys. Another race is the tall blondes, and rumor has it that there's another one called the Thor. He's a Venusian, and he stayed at the Pentagon. Do you know about this history? What's your view about this?
There are many stories about ETs, who they are and where they're from. Many of them, most of them are probably incorrect. The Eisenhower briefing document, I believe, was valid. The Galactic treaty that you're referring to has not been confirmed, in my view. The evidence is not there. So I don't know if there was a treaty. Most of what we know about the ETs directly come from the contactees, not from speculations about this president or that president. Somewhere between 500,000 and 1 million accounts from contactees have been sent to researchers by mail and by email, written accounts. They have been reviewed, but there has not been a major survey, which would be extremely expensive. But these accounts are remarkably consistent. And from these contactee accounts, we have some sense of how many types, what they look like, and some of what they're doing. That is the information that I rely on with respect to ETs specifically. I have dealt with and talked to many contactees. I'm quite convinced their stories are legitimate, with very few exceptions. Now, that's the more of that will come out. But again, that's post-disclosure world. They will have their day and we will listen, but first we have to get disclosure. Then the contactee evidence will come into play. Why? Because that's just the political reality. It would be fine if we could get that out now, but it's not going to work that way. First, we have to get disclosure, and then contactees will be listened to, and we will learn much from them. And some of the theories and speculations that you have mentioned may prove true, and some will not. But nothing shocking about that. History is a messy process.
So the next question is about positive ETs and negative ETs. Because there's rumors that not rumors, just before the former is really like a space head. Also, he's called the father of the satellite in Israel, from Israel. He revealed that the Galactic Federation Worlds, that organization, the ET organization, is a positive one. And also he revealed that Donald Trump knew about this, and he almost kind of like told people about this. But Galactic Federation Worlds said it's not ready. People are not ready for this. And also rumor has it that negative organizations such as Orion Group, some draconian Orion groups are there, which are negative. So do you think exopolitics, like, it really exists? Is there really a battle or war between the positive ETs and negative ETs?
No, 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 and no. The Honorable Mr. Shed did work with Israeli intelligence, and I think he knew something about the ET issue or encountered it. And he is very old, and he's wanting to speak out. He has. I think he also repeated a lot of things that he has read in the general field. Right? There's plenty of material out there, huge amounts of material. I think he's read a lot of it. And I think he repeated some of that back. That's fine. I don't have much confidence in a number of things this gentleman said. I do believe, though, that he's had a connection to the issue in some way while working within the Israeli government. I'm quite sure that there are members of the Israeli government and military intelligence that know there's extraterrestrials here. I'm quite certain of that. But other than the basic statements he made, I don't put a lot of confidence or emphasis on the other statements. I would like to think that the extraterrestrials in their alliance, in their confederation, they have some sort of working deals. We know that. That their ultimate intentions are good. But whether they are or whether they aren't doesn't change the fact that we must end the truth embargo, and the world must be informed of their presence so that we can all address this issue together.
About openly discussing the existence of aliens, what's the purpose of doing so for the whole humankind? While we are promoting, this disclosure, because it seems for many people, it seems irrelevant for their daily life. What's the connection between their life and alien ET disclosure? We have to explain this to people so can push forward this disclosure thing. Otherwise, they will think it's irrelevant. It means nothing to them.
When you say it means nothing to them, I'm going to disagree with that. I believe that the interest in this phenomena is worldwide and massive. I did a little research on movies about extraterrestrials. I know there have been many of these, hundreds and hundreds of them. Movies about extraterrestrials, fictional, their ticket sales plus what do you call product sales, okay? Also advertising revenues, including TV and so forth. It's the highest grossing genre in all of media, generating way in excess of $100 billion in revenues in one kind or another. The polling that is being done by Ipsos is showing increasing numbers of people are quite confident that this phenomenon is real, that it's extraterrestrial, that the government is not telling the truth. Now, would the confirmation of extraterrestrials being here now, that we are not alone in the universe, immediately affect the lives of 7 billion people the next day in a material way? No. I am asked this question always, and I have a Zen-like response I often use. When the confirmation finally comes, we are not alone, and we are being visited and engaged now, everything in this world will change, and nothing will change. The next day, each person will have the same relationships, the same job, the same problems, the same hopes, and the same dreams. But over time, every aspect of human civilization will change. I refer to it as the reverse ripple effect. When you drop a pebble into a perfectly still pond, slow motion cameras can show that the ripples start out very large in every direction and then slowly get smaller and smaller and smaller. Disclosure will be the reverse of that. When the disclosure pebble is dropped in to the ocean, that is the human race, the ripples will start out very small, and then over time, they will get bigger and bigger and bigger until everything about our existence has changed. Now, translate that, andLl give you the final part of my answer.
Cool.
Why must disclosure happen? For the past 74 years, the human race has danced on the edge of a volcano. The biggest threat to humans is not extraterrestrials. It is nuclear war. Nothing else comes close. One of the most significant things we know about the extraterrestrial presence, by virtue of scores of witnesses, is that they have repeatedly tampered with our nuclear weapons in several ways, particularly turning them off, which should be impossible. We know this has happened in the United States. We know this has happened in the Soviet Union and Russia. I have no information about China. It would not surprise me if it has happened there as well. All of the witnesses that I am aware of believe that this was not a threat, it was a message. These nuclear weapons can at any time destroy all that you have created and take away all of your hopes and dreams. Why do you have them? Now, it is very possible that not only must disclosure happen, but the extraterrestrials want it to happen. Because there is a measurable chance that in the post-disclosure world, we will finally reassess the geopolitical and economic relationships that exist between all of nations, and in particular, the nuclear powers, and come to an understanding that we no longer have the luxury of war. We must get rid of these nuclear weapons, and we must learn to cooperate and work together to share this planet. I believe that is impossible to achieve before disclosure, but there is a measurable possibility it can happen after disclosure. It is the last best chance we have to avoid the nuclear war we have almost had on at least a half a dozen occasions. So for those that feel disclosure won't immediately affect their life, I understand it. But for those that think disclosure is irrelevant or not important, I would tell them it is the most important thing that you can look to do in this world. It will be the most important event in human history, the biggest news story in human history, and it may be the door to a planet where every day you wake up knowing this could be your last day on Earth, because we have tens of thousands of nuclear weapons. They are getting more powerful. They are getting faster, and soon they will be in orbit. We must deal with this. The extraterrestrials seem to think so as well.
I know one last question. Do you think, when do you think will the disclosure, the open contact happen between ETs and us? Will that happen in our lifetime? Can you give us a rough estimate of the timing?
I'm asked that question often. Again, based on my assessment and understanding of the history of the issue, going back to 1947, I believe that disclosure was part of the engagement of the ETs, that it is significant, and it opens the door for open contact. We already have covert contact. There are hundreds of thousands of reports of that. Open contact is something else. That is when extraterrestrials, one type or another, are in contact with our governments, and we are informed of what is being said. Open contact. It might include visual open contact. If I had to pick a time frame, I'd base it on how long it would take for the planet, the human race, given all of its technology and communications ability, which is now extraordinary, to get up to speed. Well, it's a phrase, to learn a great deal about the issue and come to understand it, even become perhaps bored with it. I think that would take no more than 2 years. If that is the case, once we have got that level of global understanding and awareness, open contact would be anticlimactic. And so, if we do effectuate disclosure this year, then I think it's quite possible we will have open contact no later, well, by the end of 2023. Is that soon enough? Thank you for your interview. Please convey my best wishes to my colleagues and friends and supporters and all of the citizens of the great nation of China.
Thanks so much for taking this interview, and what you're doing is a great work for humanity. Thank you.